Hey everyone, welcome to the BBQ Brews Show. I'm your host Ryan, and I'm here with Aidan from Cutthroat Knives Australia. How you doing, mate?
I am good, man.
It's good to be here. Aidan just gave me a massive run through on how this shop works. It's been so cool to get an insight into how you make knives and how you take your people through, or how you take your trainees through learning how to make a knife.
It's exciting for you to come down here and kind of see the space.
Yeah.
But we're always excited to have people down here. We've from the beginning, we wanted this to be an open shop for people to come in, have a chat, see the space, walk around.
Excellent, mate. And we're waiting for it.
Nice.
A bit of Mount Pleasant Road Brew beers. So I've got a couple down here I brought all the way from Geelong for you. But you've got the Pale Ale there. Give it a crack. And I've got the Pilsner. So here we go. Cheers, mate.
Oh, sorry. I jumped straight in. That's great. That's actually really, really nice.
No, they're great beers, mate. And based on Geelong.
We've done knives for Jack's Creek as well back in the day.
Oh, have you?
They were one of the first limited editions we ever did a whole release for them. I should have been paid more in beef because I would have been happy with that. That would have been fantastic.
Oh mate, amazing beef, and you have like the steak and stuff. It's just next
incredible.
Level. Unreal. But Aidan, we could talk about beef all day. That's kind of part of what I do. But yeah, knives, mate. Tell us how you get started. What got you, interested in creating knives?
So I've always been into food.
Yep.
Food has been my way of connecting with the people and taking care of the people around me.
Yeah.
And through that kind of stuff, at one point you get good knives. Knives are how you interact with the food in the first place. So I was slowly buying better and better knives, and then I came across this idea of handmade knives.
Yeah.
And look, there is that price jump. You're like, oh, this is this and this is handmade.
Yeah.
And I bought one, but right around the same time I bought one, my parents were like, hey, we met somebody. And I went out and kind of learnt with this guy, and we made a hunting knife. And I don't hunt, but we went out to this guy's, shed and made a hunting knife together. And I walked out of there going, this makes sense to me.
Yeah.
This connects. I've always liked working with my hands. If I can make chef's knives, that would be fantastic. And within 6 months, I'd bought all the equipment. I was in a workshop 11 hours a day.
Yeah.
11 hours a day, pushing, trying to understand more, sitting down, reading.
Yeah. Amazing.
And within a year, I'd launched the business, and 3-4 months after launching the business, we were getting write-ups in big magazines and winning awards. So, it's that kind of thing where you fall into the right thing at the right time.
Yeah, unreal, mate. I'm looking at some of the magazines and things you're being in there, so it looks amazing. And so tell us, talk me through the first knife you made. Always interested in the first one.
Yeah, so the first knife that you make by yourself is really
that's it. Absolutely, yeah.
You go in and you learn with somebody else, and you've got that expert tutelage, which is great. But then you've got to go off and you're like, hey, can I replicate what they told me?
Yeah.
And so you go in there and you grind a knife that's kind of a knife that and I was lucky that my brother-in-law bought that first knife.
Yeah.
And he's still got it.
Oh,
and
cool.
Every year, whenever I go, he's over in England. Every year I go over to England and I look at that crappy first knife.
Yeah.
And I've since made him a replacement one because I was like, okay, I can do better than this.
Yeah.
Now.
Awesome.
And it builds in all those different lessons that you get over the time. But like most of these things, like with food, we just encourage people to jump in and give it a go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's like barbecue, right?
Yeah.
Something I tell people, it's just, you got to give it a go, and you learn more from the mistakes you make. Then, you're not going to hit home runs and you're not going to score the touchdown, so to speak. So many sports analogies, I'm not sure why.
Yeah.
In the first game or the first time you do it, right? But yeah, amazing how much you just progress. And it's cool to be able to see that first knife. So, and then going like, I've done so much better. And I guess it shows yourself the journey you've been in.
Yeah, and I think, as long as you're pushing yourself, the knife that you're working on needs to be the best of your ability at that point in time.
Yeah.
And so we can always continue pushing ourselves.
Exactly.
And I think these things are good metaphors for life. If you can take what you enjoy and then kind of push the envelope a little bit more, a little bit more.
No.
That's great.
Absolutely, mate. Now, so this is a brand new studio. It looks amazing. I'll cut to some rolls and what it looks like in here as well. But tell me, how long have you been here?
So we've been in this workshop for 2.5 years. Before this, we were in a shared makerspace for 7 years.
Yeah, wow.
So it was a big place. It was a great place to kind of start learning a whole bunch of other small businesses, in the trenches together. We're all learning from each other. You'd go out every Wednesday and we'd have pizza and talk about how to market our product, how to sell our product. Yeah. And some of the best ideas would come from that kind of stuff. But at one point, there's only so much you can do out of 20 square meters, 40 square meters.
Yeah.
So we knew that we wanted to move in here, create a big dedicated space that was all ours. So this is 300 square meters.
Amazing. Yeah.
Our grinding room is bigger than most knife makers' workshops.
Yeah.
So we want a big grinding room, and we want people to be able to come in here and make stuff and
Yep.
be inspired. I've got a big ethos around kind of going, the spaces that you exist in need to inspire the outcome of that.
Yeah, I like
so, if that's barbecuing, you need the barbecues that inspire you to barbecue.
Yep.
The worst way to get into barbecue is going, oh, I've got a really bad, disgusting, unclean gas barbecue.
No, absolutely, yeah.
You need to have that thing that goes, I want to be in front of that every single day, and that's what this space is.
And you've definitely created that. Walking through the grinding room, seeing the drill presses and just basically just all the tools and stuff behind us, and the kiln and the squirrel press, which is, you gave me a little sample of that. Like, that was just unreal. But you walk in and you're like, okay, you're not coming into some backyard operation. There's nothing wrong with that, but you're coming to a professional operation. So you've done that really, really well. And I guess you make knives, you do custom knives, but then you also teach, right? So, which I think, I mean, that's the ultimate goal of any maker or any creator, is to, how do I then teach other people to create, right? So that's got to be a great accomplishment. And how long did it take you before you went, okay, I'm ready to teach people to make their own knives?
So I think I was 4 years in, and people had been asking us for, years. I say us, myself. They'd been asking me to start running classes, and so at that point I was like, oh God, I'll run one class every 3 months.
Yeah.
And we started doing that. They booked out on instantly, and so then I started adding more and more classes. And now it's at a point where I've got 2 extra teachers, and I've taught them how I want to teach. But I actually think teaching makes you a better maker, or a better, better at whatever you need to do.
Absolutely.
Because you can understand something from muscle memory alone, but suddenly you have to go, hold on, how do I explain that to another person? How do I explain that when you're grinding something, you have to, it's like working on the sole of your foot when you're in your shoes. You're working on the other side of the knife while you're pushing on it. And that's a difficult kind of concept to get your head around. And then with forging, how you're moving material, how when you're hitting something with a hammer, the anvil's hitting it from the other side. And where you're hitting on the anvil, if you're hitting on the edge versus the hardy hole versus the Pritchett hole versus the horn, all of that is going to be hitting on the other side, and what does that do to the knife or to the spoon or to the bowl that you're making? I think these are cool, and especially when you're teaching, especially when you see somebody get it, and they've broken that little barrier of not understanding to understanding. It's cool. You see somebody learning, it's a really rewarding experience.
That's it, man. I mean, that reflects so much in barbecue too. Like my own journey with barbecue, and now I look at myself and I make something, I sort of use different barbecues, and sort of just this comfort level you hit when you know what you're doing. And it is, it'd be nice to get someone to achieve that and go, oh, okay, this makes sense now. When you first start, you're like, oh man.
And they're big things. Barbecuing is a big thing.
Big.
And people, we've all consumed barbecued food. And so we think it must be easy. And then you go in there and you start doing it, and you're like, and then the depth and the breadth of it can be scary.
That's it.
And so, sometimes it's small things like, hey, it's about ash control, or it's about, this kind of thing, or create your own sauce flavors. Those are big things that push people.
That's it. Now, so talk us through what they learn. So I think you sort of mentioned you start with a simple bowl and a mortar and pestle, to sort of just understand the dynamic way the metal moves. So is that the first thing they learn, and then you sort of head towards a knife, or is it 2 different things?
We've got 3 different classes.
Oh, there we go.
So we've got an introduction to blacksmithing.
Okay.
Introduction to blacksmithing is you make a bowl, a mortar and pestle, and a spoon, and that's about learning how to use a hammer and an anvil to manipulate steel through 3 dimensions. Really, really cool way of just kind of dipping your toe in it. And then we've also got our knife making. Our knife making is designed for people. I wish this class had existed when I first started. Where we're like, how do we get people set up so that they can continue making knives by themselves as fast as possible? So we do 2 knives in 2 days, where it's through the stock removal method. We get people to heat treat it, do all the grinding, do all the finishing, do all the handle shaping. And you see people come in, and again, they think everybody's used a knife, so it seems like it's a simple task. And then they're like, hold on, this is much harder. And then they walk out with what they've made. And
it's gonna be a great
people,
feeling.
it's a great feeling.
Yeah,
You're like, I made this thing. This thing didn't exist in the world 2 days ago.
That's unreal.
I think there's a powerful feeling about making things.
I think so too, especially something so useful as well.
Yeah.
You know, it's one thing to make something that'll sit on a mantelpiece or sit on a shelf, but to make something you go, okay, I can actually start using this every day.
And that's where we're working at the moment. We're just, probably by the time this is coming out, we'll be announcing this kind of thing. We've got a new class that we're doing where you'll be doing a day of making barbecue tools. So,
Oh, no way.
And then the other half of the day is you're making steak knives.
Yep.
And we'll be following up with a day of barbecuing. So a deep dive into
wow.
cool. I would love it to be. We're still working on the final looks of it all.
That'd be amazing.
But you get a whole bit of meat, learn how to primal cut it down,
Yep.
and then start cooking in the afternoon.
Oof.
So we're still finalising the full details
that'd
of
be
this,
amazing.
but
Let
I
me
think
know.
that's going to be a really cool one where you're like, make the tools, use the tools the next day in barbecuing, and having that connection.
Yeah, that'd be unreal, mate. Unreal.
Yeah.
Keep you posted on that one. So talk us through the knife making process. So we've got, obviously, we've got the board up there, which I'll also pan through. But they get a piece of steel, they cut it out, and they work through the metal. But just give us a quick run through on that process and what they'll learn.
I actually think that designing is an integral part of knife making. So to be your own knife maker, you have to design your own knives. We start off with an hour of knife design, and that actually goes through, hey, what makes a knife good or bad or ergonomic, and how it's going to perform. They design their own 2 knives, and then we kind of grind it out when it's in its mild state. And that gets us through to the next stage, which is heat treatment. Heat treatment is the heart and soul of good knife making.
We
were doing it in the forge just there before, and we do it with the students with that. It's, you're hitting 850 degrees centigrade. What is it? You're gonna cook your burnt ends pretty quickly in that one.
I was gonna say, it's a really hot pizza oven.
So like about 12 seconds, you're done. So that's going full ball. We get the steel up to 850 degrees, and we go through a number of stages with that. So we're trying to transition the steel through temperature. We heat it up, we cool it multiple times just in air, and then we follow that up by a quench, and that's a hardening process. So take it out, go straight into the oil. That drops the temperature by 450 degrees in a second.
Wow.
So 1 second going from 850 to 450. And then it continues to go down after that. And at that point, if I was to drop it, it would probably break. Hard it's brittle.
Wow, okay.
And then we put it in just a smaller oven to temper it, sits there for an hour. All of this has all happened, by the way, in our classes in the first half of the first day.
Oh, amazing.
So you follow that, come back after lunch, and you're grinding the knives. And that's where the performance will come out, where you're putting in the geometry of how that object is going to move through another object. And that's what a knife is. Is it's an object that gets pushed through another object. And so the thinner that blade is, the less force you're going to have to impart. You're cutting with an axe. You're imposing a huge amount of force onto that.
You have to,
You're swinging that axe. While with a kitchen knife, it's this. That's the amount of force that's going on. So it has to be nice and thin and nice and sharp to get through that.
No, amazing. Now, look, I think if anyone is even mildly interested in creating a knife, they definitely should get in touch with you. But talk us through some of these knives in front of me, mate. Like, because the knives you create, and I've sort of seen them at multiple meat stocks. We met up at a beer festival the other day as well. Just seeing the knives you have, but. Like you put like designs through these knives. I'm not going to pick them up because
pick them up. That's what they're for.
I'll pick them up. Here we go. Just try not to cut myself. But take this knife for example. There, how do you get the steel looking like that, and how do you get the different sort of tone through there as well?
So there's pattern welded steel, which is this as a representation of. Also called Damascus. It's layered steel. So you're layering up the steel. These days you kind of layer it up and you weld along the seam, and it's 2 different types of steel. Once you've layered it up, if you contort it, so if you twist it through the third dimension, or if you drill holes into it and compress it down, there's all of these different techniques to bring out different patterns.
Wow, okay.
And then once you start grinding, you're grinding through those different layers. Now at that point, if we did nothing to it, it would just look flat.
Yeah.
So we soak it in acid, and the acid wears away at the two different steels at slightly different rates. And so that's when you reveal the pattern that's in the steel.
Gotcha.
So that one is, Damascus with a copper shim over a high carbon core.
Yeah.
That's a really
Love that copper.
Yeah,
That's
beautiful, kind of really stands out. It's got a chevron pattern on there. We also do kind of mono steel stuff. I like mono steel because there's nothing to hide behind. It's it's the margarita, it's the Pomodoro.
Yeah.
You've got nothing to hide behind, which means that everything has to be perfect.
Yeah.
If you're not using the right tomatoes, if you're not using the right dough, everybody goes like, your pizza's pretty terrible. And it's the same with this. A good mono steel blade that's finished properly, that has a nice handle that sings.
That's it.
It's going to look great. So this is kind of our entry point. This is an 8-inch chef's knife. I think everybody should have one of these in their house, whether it's ours or somebody else's. As long as you've got an 8-inch chef's knife in your house, you're doing pretty well. So we've got one of those.
Fantastic.
And then we do this is more complex work. So this is a full forged blade. It's what's called an integral bolster. So the steel was thicker than this, and then we forged in that taper there.
Yeah, right.
And that's that next level up again.
Yeah.
And then this wood on there, it looks like it was all designed all in one piece.
Yes, but the handles you do some amazing handles. I was trolling through your socials and your website. I'm like, man, the stuff you put in there. Especially with the custom stuff, the fully customized stuff. So people just give you these ideas of I would love this to be in it.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, we've tried to make it as accessible as possible.
Yeah. Okay.
Imagine going to a suit place and them having no examples of the suits.
Yeah.
And so you're going to go in there and you're like, I want a suit. And they're like, what do you want? And you're like, oh, no, I don't know, a suit. No, they have pictures of other suits. You go, okay, I want to have a single button, but I want to have a vest underneath, and I want this to be the lining, and they have all of those choices. Yeah. So we've made that as accessible as possible. Because again, it's something that I wished I had when I was first buying knives as well.
Absolutely.
You want that. We have our other knives, and then you're like, hey, this is the one of one. This is the something that represents you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. And so talk us through, obviously you do the classes, but talk us through the custom process. If someone wants to do a custom knife, they would come to you and start a conversation, I would assume, initially?
Yeah, so they can order what's called imprint. We call it imprint because it's like your finger imprint. It's as unique as you are.
Yeah.
And then we send you out a book, and the book has, I think it's 1 million different possible permutations from that, from the images in that book alone.
Oh, was that the book I think you had at the stall? Yeah, right.
So we've got that's there for people.
Yep.
And it's meant to just inspire you.
Yep.
A lot of the designs aren't from that book at all. People go, hey, I like this part, but can you do something like this? We had a guy come in and he's like, I'm a squidder. Can you put a squidding
I saw that.
jig in the handle?
The jig.
And we're like, yeah, man, okay. So we did this Damascus stainless steel blade and carved out the space for the squidding jig to be in there and resin cast it in there.
Man.
And and he was like, I want the handle, I want the sheath to be made out of fish leather. So we went off and found fish leather for him. And that's no one has that.
That's so much fun,
That's
though.
his knife.
Yeah.
And if you take care of that knife, you'll hand it to your grandkids.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
that's a valid point because I think that's, people look at these knives and they're very, they're not your average price and not your, because you're not going to go to a house and buy one of these knives.
Yeah.
Like the most expensive knife at, like any super or shopping center is like $150, $200, and it's usually crappy anyway, right? There's nothing fantastic about it. But these are the kind of knives that you would go like, hey, this is the knife that I made custom and handed down. It's really a heirloom, isn't it?
I think the best knife that I could ever make you is the one your grandfather gave you.
Yeah.
Like, that has meaning, that has history to it.
Absolutely, mate.
Since I can't make that knife, how do I make the one that you want to take care of and hand down to your grandkids?
Yeah.
And I think the more it has elements of a little story to it.
Yeah.
We had one guy come in, first year we started offering custom work.
Yeah.
And we were like, we just want people to come in with crazy
Yeah,
ideas.
yeah, yeah.
So we're like, whoever gives us the best idea, we'll make your knife for free. No. First year that we started doing the complete custom work. And he comes in and he takes off his shirt and he's like, I want my back tattoo on the knife. And we're like, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So we took a photo of his back and redid the tattoo, and that's on the knife itself.
Mate.
And he goes, yeah, I use it this many times a year.
Yeah.
I was like, use it every day. He's like, no, it's my special knife.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I'm going to give it to my kids one day. I'm
Excellent.
like, that's wild, beautiful, but how do we make more tools in our lives that have meaning for us?
Yeah.
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 I think
That's true.
We've got a world filled full of like consumable
mate,
crap.
Just
and I think, you know, especially I think we all noticed it during COVID when we all had to pull back and connection became so much more important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, let's hold on to that feeling of connection about going, how do we connect with other people? You know, is it through the food that I cook for them? Is it the time I'm standing next to them barbecuing?
Yep.
Is it the knife I give them or that they give me or that we do together? Or the one that I hand down to my kids? These things are cool.
Absolutely.
You know?
Oh, mate, that's it. I mean, look, I mean, obviously I love this idea of the custom knife and exactly how you guys do it. It's just amazing. But what's next for you, for Cutthroat? What are you looking to do this year? And you know, I mean, besides the amazing barbecue and knife making toolkit, that's going to be bloody amazing. But yeah, what's next? What have you got?
We've got some
planned?
We've got some cool custom work that we're bringing out. We're doing a collaboration with a whiskey maker up on the Murray-Darling.
Oh, nice.
Super excited to work with them.
That's unreal.
There. And look, I love whiskey. Anytime I can kind of combine things that I already love with that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
We're going to be wholesaling through the Q Club. We've done a whole series of of custom barbecue themed handles for them.
Amazing.
That's exclusive to those guys.
Yep.
And then we just want to push our classes.
Yep.
We want to be doing more of those ones. So that barbecuing one is going to be the first one.
Yep.
But it's going to be followed up with, hey, let's make some cheese knives and a cheese board and learn.
Oh, fantastic.
You know, do a deep dive into cheese, or do like, hey, we're going to do an oyster knife and like an oyster shocker.
Yeah.
And then do that and follow that up. I would, again, how do you do the things, how do you run the classes that you wish somebody else was doing?
Yeah.
You're like, some of this stuff, I'm like, I
want to be in the class.
I want to be the person in the class. I don't want to be that. So we're just doing the things where we're like, man, that would be cool to be in that thing.
Yeah.
And that excites me. You know, the more you can do those kind of things. I love barbecuing.
You were saying. So
I've been going to Q Club when he first opened, when Andrew first opened. I had some of the first Weber Smoky Mountains that were brought into Australia at the time. I've been barbecuing like forever in that kind of stuff. You know, when barbecuing first came over to Australia with the American style. This stuff excites me. That's why we did the Pitmaster.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh,
we
no,
did it
I can see from here.
It's
amazing.
I want that knife to exist.
It looks amazing. And look, let's talk barbecue. What have you got? What are you cooking with at the moment?
So at the moment, I'm addicted to my Gosney.
Unreal.
Last night, did tacos, did pulled pork, and then we're just finishing them, getting them real burnt, just back in and out of the fire, giving it a little twist. In and out of the fire to get it real kind of crisp.
Knife making. Look at you, like you're using it like a kiln.
I was all the time. And then I also run a Weber kettle. And next step is the Traeger.
Yep.
I've also got a deep fryer outside, a little mini deep fryer.
You gotta have
and it's so good.
That's all you need. And deep fry outside,
deep frying inside is the recipe to how much you don't like your house.
Yeah, that's it.
Deep frying outside is perfect.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Inside is the worst.
Amazing, mate. Now, where can people find you? How do they book a class?
So you can head onto our website, which is cutthroatknives.com.au.
Yep.
We've got classes available, knives available on there, and you can also order our custom work. We've also got a storefront, so that has
pop in,
come in. Even if you just kind of want to take those next steps in knife making. We're here to help people, whatever their question is. If you're like, hey, I like your knives, but I can't afford them. We don't have other knives, but we can point you in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
And I suppose that's a good question too. Like, if there is a budding knife maker out there, come and do the class. And then, but Aidan's a wealth of knowledge. I think. I mean, the little time I spent with you today. And I really want to do a class one day, but the little time I spent, I learned so much. And just like and you explain it really, really well too. So it's not super complicated, and you go like, okay, I get that.
We're trying to demystify this as much as possible.
So
I think a lot of people have built their industry on making it, on gatekeeping and making it, it's the magic of this kind of thing. You're like, nah, it turns out that it's this.
Oh, that's it. And look, there is a certain, I mean, it is a dying industry, but this way of making knives is, I mean, not everyone's doing it like this, you know. There's a few handful of people in Australia doing it, so it's great to see you teach more people, and you know, pushing and making people understand there's more to knives than just what you get, you know, at a store.
100%. I think in the same way that we need to preserve historical artifacts. You know, Damascus blades that have been pulled out of the sands of conflicts throughout the Middle East. And we should be preserving those things. We need to preserve the techniques and the methods for how those things were made.
Absolutely.
And then we need to push those methods as well. So we need all of these different elements.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I totally, I mean, that's kind of like I guess that's my draw towards, I mean, bringing it back to barbecue. It's part of the show, man.
Yeah.
I have to. No, but that's the draw to barbecue for me. You know, like I think it was like even like cooking on, like smoking on the offset, taking you back to that fire, the charcoal, the smoke. You know, you kind of like it's taking you back to where, you know, like rather than just going gas light, boom, and you got flames, which is obviously easy. But nothing beats a good, you know, low and slow barbecue.
It's the way humans first cooked.
Exactly.
You know, like, Cooking is the application of fire to an ingredient.
Exactly.
And it transforms it and it makes it easier for us to digest. It allowed humans to become humans.
Yep.
And so barbecuing is that connection to every single human that's ever cooked over a fire before.
That's it, mate. And I think that's the bit that I think when you start and you sort of really get into it, you really find yourself. I found myself a couple of times, like I'll be creating content for barbecue companies or whatever, and I'll start the fire and I'm getting it going, and then I sit there and I'm like, oh, it's been 30 minutes. I've been just looking at this fire, like just enjoying that moment, and then part of me is like, I wish I could just watch this fire all day. So I get I love it.
But I think it's built in.
It's built into us.
Built into our biology.
Yep.
You know, you go out into the deserts of Africa, and you light a fire at nighttime. That's the safest way for you to be.
Yep.
You're near that fire. Yep. Other animals aren't going near that fire.
No.
You're near that fire.
Yeah.
And I think it's something about our
biology,
our evolution goes,
yeah.
hey, it's being close to a fire actually makes you a little bit safe.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
I can wax
Maybe
poetically about
not that far.
Yeah, I can wax poetically about all of this kind of barbecuing and knife making because it does connect you with this kind of stuff. I love
that you bring them together, mate. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Well, I think me being into barbecuing has made me a better knife maker.
Really?
Because I think the two feed off each other.
Yep.
Because it's understanding how heat affects things.
Yeah.
And you know that line of ash is the enemy.
Yeah.
I remembered, is it Tuffy Stone? Mm-hmm. He said that line and I was like, oh my God, he's so right. And I was like, that works for what we do as well.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, cool, I've got to be aware of that kind of stuff. These things are how we do it.
No, awesome. Aidan, it's been so good to speak to you, mate. Great. Thanks, Thank you so much for the tour and giving us an insight. And yeah, if you want to learn more about knife making, you want to do a class, get in touch. Aidan does amazing work and he's part of the barbecue community as well. So great to have a chat. And we'll see you around on the show, and I'll catch you guys next time on the BBQ Brews Show.